the New York Giants, who got their first win of the season. So we look at the notable fantasy performances. Marion Hampton, who we're going to talk about, he leads the way with not a lot of volume because they were trailing the whole time, but he made it work at 27.5 fantasy points. But I think the most interesting aspect of this game, the debut of Jaxson Dart, goes for almost 20 fantasy points. Doesn't do a lot through the air, Matthew, but Jaxson Dart, there is going to be a delta between his real-life value and his fantasy value, and the fantasy value is pretty high.
This is the point I was trying to make. And I mean, like we said it last week as well. Like, as soon as the news broke, like, he's going to be a top 12 fantasy quarterback from moment one. People are like, wow, the Chargers, offensive line, blah, blah, blah. And a game in which he also loses Malik Neighbors, and we'll talk about that in a second. As we head into Monday Night Football, he's QB8. Unless all four quarterbacks tonight go completely crazy, and I don't think that's going to happen, Jaxson Dart's going to finish his debut in a game in which he didn't have Malik Neighbors for much of it, and he played against what we think is a pretty good defense in the Chargers, and he's going to finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback, and I don't think that's a fluke. He had 10 rushing attempts, right, including 3 in the red zone and 2 on the goal line. 57% of his points came as a runner, but by the way, that's part of it. That was part of the argument. We saw this in the preseason. Like, he's going to run around and use his legs, and we did the Football Night in America podcast last night, and we were doing a speed round, and they were like, what's one word to describe? And one of the questions was Jaxson Dart's debut, and I said, encouraging. There's some stuff to clean up from both a professional, from a real football and fantasy football perspective, but like, I'm encouraged. If I was a Giants fan, I'd be thrilled this morning. Like, you won a game you probably shouldn't have, right, against a team that I think is better than you. And assume if you told me, like, hey, you're playing the Chargers with a rookie quarterback and you're going to lose your best offensive weapon, pretty early on, I'd be like, well, there you go. That's a lot. And the Giants won that game, and so I would be. I do think while there's going to be kind of a longer growing curve with Dart from a real-life NFL perspective, he's a QB1 fantasy-wise moment one.
Yep, and not every week he's not going to have to face as good or well-schemed a defense as the Chargers week in, week out.
They play the Saints next week.
Yeah, which is much easier despite the Saints being quite plucky. We heard from Jaxson
Now, we will
Dart.
say, then after the Saints, it's Eagles, at Denver, at Philadelphia. Yeah, so, again, Eagles in 2 of the next 3 after the Saints. But still, again, I just think the rushing elevates his floor.
Yep. Okay, we heard from Jaxson Dart yesterday on winning in his debut and where he can improve.
Obviously, this experience was a special one, being my first one. And I'm just grateful to have the guys around me that I had. I obviously want to give a big shout-out to Russ. I know that this week probably wasn't the easiest thing, but he handled it like a professional and just was a mentor for me. So, obviously just have a ton of respect for him. I was just waiting for it to hit 0 because, obviously that Dallas game, in my mind I thought we were going to have that one. So I was just staring at the clock, just waiting for it to count down. But, John Runyon was right next to me, and that was a cool moment to have with him. And, it was just, special to get the first one.
Jaxson Dart talking about Russell Wilson. So I think one of maybe the more interesting fantasy aspect of the Giants now is Cam Scatterbury is getting an insane amount of workload. Yeah. He's a must start. He's a must start when he's getting this type of workload. But like, how high is the ceiling? Is Cam Scatterbury like a running back 1 at this point?
I don't think so. I'm nervous about the passing game usage. He's a must start at least until Tyrone Tracy comes back. But they need to figure out the offensive line, and he needs to. The passing game usage isn't significant. I do think, again, the double-edged sword with having a mobile quarterback like Dart, it's going to open up some rushing lanes, but it's also there's a chance that he gets vultured at the goal line a few times as well. And so touchdown opportunities may be up and down. But look, I mean, I think this is right. Like, his stat line, I think, in this particular case is right. Like, 25 rushes. Okay, and 2 targets. So ultimately, like, he got 27 attempts, insane usage to your point. And yet, 79 yards rushing, he had 11 receiving yards, didn't get a touchdown. He finishes as running back 19 as we head into Monday Night Football, and that sounds about right to me. I think he's a low-end RB2 because of the lack of the passing game usage. But for the next however many weeks Tyrone Tracy is out, it's clear the backfield is his, and this offense, especially like he'll probably be on the love list next week against the Saints.
Yep. All right, let's jump to the Chargers. Ladd McConkey is the story here. He's probably the guy I get more texts about than anyone else. Is like what to do with this guy.
Super weird, because the person I get the most texts about is you, actually.
Okay, that's strange. Yeah, Ladd McConkey for me, Jay Crouch for Matthew. I almost did as much as Ladd McConkey did at Giants Stadium yesterday. He has one catch for 11 yards, 6 targets, which is also weird. Like, he's not a deep ball guy. Like, why are you getting one catch from 6 targets? So what are we doing with Ladd McConkey?
Yeah, he was so terrible. I'm surprised you don't have a large bet on him.
Yes.
Very
good.
I'll
try to find one. Yeah, I'll try.
If you could. Look, last week we said I own this. Like no. I think this is the week that McConkey gets off the schneid. I'm not panicked. I'm a little panicked. Quentin Johnson, whenever there's a performance, whether it's elite or not, it's like, okay, why did this happen and can it repeat? And so the concern with McConkey is that, like, the reason it's happening is because they're getting such good production from Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen. And you're like, can that repeat? And you're like, clearly it can be. Like, it's like the first game against the Chiefs, you were like, all right, well, he just got loose for one and bust down in coverage. But, like, now they're actively targeting him. They actively targeted him last week against Pat Surtain had him. And so this is now back-to-back games for McConkey where he's had less than a 16% target share. And McConkey is somebody, he's not a big touchdown scorer. He needs that volume. And the other weird part is that this is somebody that we think is talented. He caught 17% of his targets. It's his first career game with a catch rate below 50%, third straight game with less than 50 receiving yards. He does not have one end zone target this year. And so I'm nervous on McConkey, to be honest. I think I will say this, that going into week 5, for the first time all year, I will have Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen ranked ahead of him.
Wow.
I will. The last thing I'll say on McConkey, though, is that for our purposes, I don't know that there's anything you can do. You don't want to. He's got no value right now. You can't sell him, right? So I think you just have to keep him, and then it obviously depends on what your options are in terms of whether you start him. We'll talk about that as the week goes on. But I think, unfortunately, right now, you just have to sort of hang tough and lower expectations because I don't think he's this bad. I think he is a talented player, and I think. But, like, if you said to me, all right, pick one Chargers wide receiver for the rest of the year, I don't know that you're necessarily picking Ladd McConkey. QJ looks great.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like it was always going to have to take a massive outlier for Ladd McConkey to really fail in this offense from a fantasy perspective. And the massive outlier is that Quentin Johnson now looks very much like a first-round pick and a number one option. And he's played amazing. And also he gets more deep volume and he gets more touchdown volume. So and Keenan Allen also overlaps a lot with McConkey's role. And Keenan Allen looks very good overall. So yeah, I would still. It's hard to buy low on Ladd McConkey. So I don't think people want to sell him at his current value. But I think that the hope for Ladd McConkey now is like high-end wide receiver 3 type of stuff.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.